Jeff Brohm just said something that should have every Cardinals fan extremely excited. You're locked on Louisville. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my sixth year covering U of L, fourth year hosting this show. And thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. The show is free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment in the YouTube section below, and help the show continue to grow. It is much appreciated. But Jeff Brohm had some extremely encouraging updates on both Stanquan Clark and Duke Watson. We'll tell you what he had to say and how it affects the team in the final 5 games of the regular season and beyond. Also, Pat Kelsey confirming that freshman forward Muhammad Kamar will indeed redshirt this season. I believe that this is the right decision from the coaching staff, and we got a lot of stuff to get into. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today to get started. What Jeff Brohm said in his weekly press conference ahead of the Virginia Tech game should have every Cardinals fan over the moon. Encouraging updates on 2 key players, Stanquan Clark and Duke Watson, and it seems like reinforcements may just be around the corner. Stanquan Clark sustained that lower leg injury against James Madison that was horrifying to watch when you replayed it. But remember that initial report, how vague it was from CBS Sports, suggesting that, well, at the earliest, he could return well into October, but it's likely looking like November. And we're all kind of like, that couldn't be any more unclear. And then a couple days later, Jeff Brohm didn't slam the door, but he closed it too, right? If you were to push it without turning the doorknob, you could push the door open, but it was ajar. It wasn't slammed shut. But he said that, hey, look, it's likely that Stanquan Clark is going to miss the rest of the season. Now, the tone has changed. This is what Jeff Brohm had to say this week. Stanquan has rehabbed very well, and we actually will try to see how much he could do this week, but it'll be his first week of practice. If we can pull that off, I'm not going to rule that off the table, but we'll see how this week goes. He has progressed extremely well up to this point, and there is a slight chance he can return this season. Boom. Love to see it. Love to see it. Because all of a sudden, a really good Cardinals defense could potentially return arguably its most talented player. Don't forget, this unit has answered every call, mainly without Stanquan. He got hurt in the second game of the season. The linebacker room has stepped up tremendously. Like, it was an all-hands-on-deck need for the Cardinals defense, and they have passed every test with pretty much flying colors. But it changes the original report, or maybe confirms it, because here we are, he's practicing. Not a foregone conclusion that he's going to play at any point this season, but I find it interesting that with 5 games left, with the possibility of maintaining that red shirt or not maintaining that red shirt, here he is potentially looking to return it. And what's likely is that the recovery went faster than initially thought. And that might have been the reason for why there was such a wide time frame. Like, in best case scenario, he returns at the end of the year. Worst case scenario, he misses the rest of the season. But what changed? Like, why was the initial messaging that he was likely going to miss the rest of the season, and now all of a sudden he has a potential to come back? Now, I highly doubt. I would almost say that the chances of him playing against Virginia Tech are pretty close to 0. I think it's unlikely that he plays against California, too. No inside information. Just, he has to get back into playing shape and come back from that injury. I think that if you're looking for a date for him to return, maybe Clemson is the target date. That gives you a couple weeks to get him up to game speed and get him more in shape. So, like I said, What changed? The faster recovery was likely the culprit, because even though we try to put a timeline on every injury, the reality is that everyone's bodies are different. People respond to injuries differently than others. The severity of the injury also comes into play. Like, this is such a complex layer that you have to go beneath the surface to really understand why the timeline is the timeline. But I had someone ask if I could address this on the show, and I said, you know what, I'll give it a go. And the question was centered around whether or not Louisville's success has prompted Brohm to push for Stanquan to return this season. I'm not sure that that's the case. Look, I don't like to speculate with injuries and stuff like that, because I think that at some point it's really not fair to the player. But it is intriguing because the messaging and the tone has changed. Does like the impact of a potential redshirt, because if he does come back and all he has to do is play 2 of the 5 remaining regular season games, and he has to play 3 because he's played 2 so far. If he plays more than 4, he's going to burn that redshirt season. Now, I think personally, for a guy like Stanquan Clark, there was a chance that with a good year of tape or year of film that he was going to go to the NFL this year. I think that you're going to get one more season of Stanquan Clark. So I'm not sure that the redshirt situation really comes into play. I think that, hey, if you can get Stanquan Clark back with everything still to play for, you're playing meaningful football in the month of November, which is great. Look, the reality probably is that Stanquan's camp, he and his family and his support system, the coaching staff and the medical team probably came together with a game plan. Say, hey, look, you're ahead of schedule. Player wants to come back, then, hey, man, I'm all for it. Like, I don't want to bring too much of a conspiracy to this. Like, so please don't make this out as me suggesting that there's some sort of conspiracy here. I don't believe that there is. I'm just addressing the question. And there's no guarantee that he is even going to come back, but it's awesome to hear that this is the case, because like I said, a good defense can get even better. Make no mistake about it. In no situation or circumstance is an injury a blessing in disguise. Let's make that crystal clear. It will never be a blessing in disguise. But one thing that we discussed when Stanquan went down was that the linebacker room was going to have to fill that gap by committee. You needed TJ Quinn, TJ Capers, and Caleb Perry all to step up, and they have. Now, have that improved linebacker play and mix it with Stanquan coming back. Oh, man, I'm thinking of all the possibilities and how good this defense can play. Something that I think about with the way that the schedule is going down, Grayson James didn't have maybe the counting statistics that suggested how effective he was, but in the first half, Louisville didn't really have an answer for Boston College's quarterback scrambling. They just didn't, right? And they made adjustments, but that was the Achilles heel last year. They haven't had to go up against that much this year, but you have a couple quarterbacks to end the season, primarily Cade Klubnik, who you did prevent from doing this in 2024, but he still has the potential, and Kevin Jennings from SMU, 2 guys that can scramble, extend drives with their legs. And again, until Louisville shows that they can stop that for all 4 quarters, you kind of have to wonder, well, how are they going to address defending a mobile quarterback and prepare for one? I think having Stanquan Clark, one of your best athletes, a guy that can cover sideline to sideline, a potential spy in that defense, having him back for Clemson and SMU would be such a huge boost for this Cardinals defense. Not to mention, I think that he is the best linebacker in coverage playing on that weak side for Ron English's defense. So, like I said, it's awesome to hear. And I hope that he's able to come back and have a good end of the season. Like I said, no conspiracy theorist stuff. I think it's just a matter of his recovery went faster than it was previously expected. And this is really good news for Jeff Brohm's team. So Huge update for him. Extremely encouraging. But he wasn't the only player that we got an update on. Running back Duke Watson has been banged up almost all season. What Jeff Brohm had to say made me feel good about his availability coming up here potentially this week, definitely in the next couple of games. We'll tell you what Brohm had to say when we come back. You're Locked on Louisville, covering your team every day. Card Nation, the NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even larger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you all again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube and now TikTok, 5 days a week. Your team every day. Let's continue to dissect Jeff Brohm's words from his weekly press conference. Not only did he update Stanquan Clark's availability, but he had some things to say about Duke Watson. It was short and to the point, but here is what he had to say. Duke Watson, we will try to get back in practice this week. It's too early to tell. I'm always hopeful, but it's too early to tell. Now, the too early to tell was in reference to the question of whether or not he will return for Virginia Tech. But I'm hoping this isn't coach speak, but just the fact that they are keeping the door open and not just outright ruling him inactive is something that I think is a step in the right direction. And look, I feel so bad for Duke. This sophomore season has been a train wreck for him. He's appeared in 4 games, but I mean, he got hurt against James Madison, and he tried to tough it out multiple times, like that Pittsburgh game where he had 14 carries for 47 yards, and he even got helped off the field in that game, came back and just kind of stuck his head down and got through it. The Virginia game, he had 1 carry. So, I mean, he missed the Bowling Green game, and he has missed the last 2 games of the season. And the 6-foot native of Forsyth, Georgia, is sorely missed in this Cardinals backfield. Getting Duke back would be huge. You need him back as soon as possible. And here's the main reason why. Isaac Brown and Kewan Brown also haven't been fully healthy this year. Remember, at various points this season, thankfully it didn't really matter against Bowling Green, but Pittsburgh, thankfully you had early buys, but all 3 running backs have been injured. Isaac Brown has been banged up. Now he's getting back to 100%, and you can tell by the way that he's played over the past couple of games. Kewan Brown has spent some time injured this season. You're an injury away in that running backs room from making things extremely, extremely daunting. Not to mention offensive line play wasn't great to start the year. I still don't think it is particularly great, but it's serviceable. You're being able to run the football. You just ran for over 300 yards against Boston College. That defense, not great overall, but respectable defending the run. Another reason is because you've seen over the past couple of games when Isaac Brown has fumbled the football in absolutely critical spots, he's gotten benched for at least a series. And you haven't been able to go to Duke Watson. This is no disrespect to Kewan Brown. Please don't take it as that. I am a huge fan of Kewan. Honestly, one of the leaders of the Kewan Brown fan club. He is a tough runner, has a deceptive second-level speed, but just does a good job of absorbing contact and being able to stay upright. But he doesn't have the explosiveness of Isaac Brown and Duke Watson. So when Isaac Brown isn't on the field, you can tell. Duke Watson has the skill set to where you can replicate a lot of what you get with Isaac. I think Isaac has, I'm going to try to make sense of this. Isaac is faster than Duke. but it feels like Duke is more agile. He does a good job of making defenders miss in terms of just from agility and quickness. Now, Isaac is no slouch, but his main thing is when he hits that gap, you're not catching him. But don't forget, Isaac does a good job of making guys miss, breaking tackles. Both of them are great at it. That's the thing about it is like when Isaac goes off the field, you can tell. And not having him on the field, there's a little bit of a drop off. And it's no disrespect to Keywan. Please don't take this as disrespectful. It's just the reality of how good Isaac Brown is. And Duke Watson brings some of those same things to the table. When he's healthy or relatively healthy, you saw what he could do last year as a true freshman. I'm excited to see them get Duke Watson back. Also, because of the 1-2 punch. You have Isaac and Duke. Give the ball to Isaac and then give the ball to Duke. This is one of the top backfields in the country heading into the season. Now, it hasn't really lived up to expectations because of injuries and offensive line play. But there is a reason that we talked about this duo that way. Because the talent that these guys have, the level of production in their freshman seasons was not normal for this program. So getting Duke back gives you that extra level and just gives you another option. I think Duke also has upside as a receiver, had a 30-yard catch and a touchdown against Eastern Kentucky in the first game. You look back to 2024, and he only had 60 yards receiving, but I think that most of the game planning wasn't to getting the ball out to running backs. I think that Duke Watson can give you an added impact in that department. I mean, he averaged 9 yards per carry last season. There was a reason for that. Will he do that when he comes back? Probably not. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him, like Isaac Brown, just continuing to show out. The main thing here, though, is I don't want to see him consistently get hurt. Isaac Brown has woken up. Keywan Brown has been effective. I would rather be safe than sorry and err on the side of caution with Duke. And I think that that's probably what they're doing, right? He's been inactive. They haven't tried to push the envelope. He had the carry against Virginia and nothing since, right? He was out during the bye week. He didn't play against Miami. He didn't play against Boston College. And I hope that Louisville stays that course and they don't rush him back because I don't want to affect his long-term longevity, right? You want to make sure that even if it costs him some games this year, that you are still keeping his long-term future in mind and making it to where he can help out next year. That's assuming that both are back next year, which they were able to bring both back this year, but hey, you never know in the transfer portal era. So I hate that it has been this train wreck of a season for Duke. I mean, it's just very discouraging to see because you saw what he did last year and you know the potential that he has. So it's tough to see, but it's good to know that it's getting better. It's good to know. Maybe it's not the encouraging update that everyone was just completely hoping for, and that was Duke being back for Virginia Tech. But I would argue that not counting him out is just as encouraging. Not counting him out because he's been out the past couple of weeks, and that has been the tone. Now it's like, okay, we're just going to wait and see because it's obviously improving, but has to continue to get better. Don't rush him back, but the sooner that he can get back, the better, especially when you have a Clemson defense coming up that might be good on paper, but they still haven't shown it on the field this year. The SMU matchup on the road is going to be key, and then you have Kentucky. So you have everything to play for. The more reinforcements that you can get for this roster, the better. But what Jeff Brohm said made me extremely excited. I don't know about you all. I don't know if you looked at this and said, yeah, okay, you might come back. I'm just glad that the tone has changed from, well, he's not playing to, he could. He might be able to. We'll see. We'll give it time. Maybe it's gamesmanship. That could be another thing. Maybe it's gamesmanship, but I don't think that Virginia Tech is going to be all that fooled by it if it is indeed gamesmanship, because he hasn't played in a couple weeks. So it's not like he played last week and then, oh, well, he's questionable for this week. Like, they're probably going to prepare for him either way, and you'll get the injury report on Thursday. So we'll see. Well, actually, we'll get it tonight. So we'll see what that says. But let's go over to the basketball side. Pat Kelsey has announced that Muhammad Kamara is going to redshirt. I think that it is 100% the right decision from the coaching staff. I'll explain why when we come back. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Kart Nation, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can make every day drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls with all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Exhibition play has ended for the Cardinals, and just before the final exhibition game against Bucknell, Pat Kelsey confirmed that Muhammad Kamara is going to redshirt this season. Kamara, coming from the NBA Academy Africa in this recruiting class, 6'8", 225-pound forward, was ranked as a 4-star on 24/7 Sports, but not many knew much about him, and that's not necessarily a shock. We don't really have much game film from any, I feel like, international league, right? But I will say this, and I'm going to address it because I'm seeing it on social media. I'm not saying that it's a loud presence of it, but I'm kind of shocked that some people are shocked by this. I thought that this was going to happen all along. I'll be honest with you. Some seem to be outraged by it. I don't understand that. I really just don't understand that. There are some things that I get, and we'll bring up some good points that the opposition makes. But I think that this is the right decision, I should clarify, by Pat Kelsey and this coaching staff. And I will add that this is a coaching staff that is with these players every single day. So if they're saying that, hey, look, he's just not ready, who are we to doubt them, right? Who are we to doubt them? And it felt like this was always going to be the case. When he committed to Louisville, looking at the roster that was already in place, I immediately said, and you can kind of go back to the commitment episode that we had on this show, I mentioned that he's likely going to redshirt. At the very best, I felt like he was going to be end of rotation, and that was going to result from either multiple injuries, knock on wood, hope that doesn't happen, or guys just not stepping up. And it's just, it was always going to be this way, in my opinion. Muhammad Kamara, 20 years old. Yes, he's one of those international guys that's coming to college older than your traditional freshman, even though he is listed as a freshman, versus Zugris and Frew, who are listed as both juniors. He's listed as a freshman at 20 years old. Still, he has a raw skill set. I think if he were to play significant minutes or rotational minutes this season, it would be as somewhat of a defensive specialist, a guy that you're bringing in to rebound the basketball, but the offensive skill set needs refining. Like, his tools just need to be worked on. And I think that the potential is there. Please don't take this as me saying that Muhammad Kamara is not going to be a good basketball player, because if you're saying that I think that, then what do you think Pat Kelsey's saying by redshirting him? Right? I think that it's just a focus on building consistency with the roster and having continuity year over year. Just because a player isn't expected to be good this year for your program doesn't mean that that's never going to change. Like, this is why you bring in players that can develop and be contributors in the years to come. And like I said, I'm okay with this. This is what I was hoping for with the final scholarships for this roster. And I think some people are just annoyed that Louisville didn't use all 15, although that's not really all that realistic because you're going to have multiple red shirts at that point because you're not going to play all 15 guys. Yes, I know that Pat Kelsey substitutes a lot, but most of his rotations are around 10 players. This year, it might be a little different. You might even see a shorter rotation. One of the rebuttals that I'm seeing is, well, why aren't you at least giving him a chance? And again, I point back to the notion that Pat Kelsey has seen him in practice leading up to this point. He saw him in off-season workouts where Kamar had some good, noteworthy plays that got clipped and put on Louisville's social media. And like I said, he's got talent. It's not to say he's a bad player. There's no shame in admitting that he just might not be ready. That's okay, because when you are building your roster for next year and you are banking on Kamar's development, like other players, you say, okay, you know what? We have to go to the portal and get XYZ, but we do have Kamara with a year in this program. He's practiced with the guys and he's ready to play a role in 2026-27. I'm cool with that. Another reason why I think that it's the right decision is, put it this way. If Kamara wasn't playing a consistent role in the rotation, there's no reason to give him end of game minutes and burn that red shirt. Like, what's the return on investment there? Why burn a year of eligibility just for him to play garbage time minutes? I just don't think there is a good reason for that. Like, if he is not projected to play a ton for this team this year, then why not redshirt him? What's the point of having him waste a year of eligibility, spending most of every game on the bench? Because this team already has a clogged rotation. They had a clogged rotation when he committed to Louisville. You've got guard play, right? You've got 5 key guards that are going to play. Some 3-guard lineups. Kanai Roots is going to play a ton this year. Evangelos Zugris, Sananda Fru, Javon Hadley, Ali Khalifa, not to mention Case and Pryor coming back. Somebody tell me where the minutes are coming from. If you disagree with this move, excuse me, sorry, this weather has got my throat all scratchy as I hate that I keep mentioning it because you're like, oh, you're always sick. Bro, leave my immune system alone, bro. I've got allergies. If you disagree with this move to redshirt Kamara, tell me why in the comments. Let's have a civil conversation. I want you to tell me where these minutes are coming from. There's also some that will say, well, you've got 12 players on the roster. Why redshirt one and only give yourself 11? You saw what happened last year. That's the good point. That's the good point that I alluded to. I don't disagree with that. But if we have another season where you have multiple starters go down early in the year, that I don't know what to say. I think that the team is overall better from a up and down perspective. Like, the rotation is better, the roster as a whole is better, top to bottom. Your bench is better, so you're not going to have to play 3 guys upwards of 33 minutes a night like you did last year. You've still got those guys. Even if a couple players do get hurt and get injured, you still have 11 right now. I think that the rotation is probably going to be from 8 to 9, in my opinion. I don't think that there's going to be 10 that play significantly in the rotation. And here's the thing. While I understand that, if it gets to the point to where you have to burn his redshirt year, then you got to do it. Then you have to do it. But I just, barring unforeseeable circumstances, I think it's the right move. Now, could you make the case that Louisville should have added one more developmental piece to give themselves some injury insurance? I'm okay with you making that argument. I just don't really understand why a portion of the fan base is against this. I feel like it's 100% the right move. I was expecting it, truthfully. And here it is. Again, it's not an indication of what I think about Kamara. It's just the reality of the situation, the context with the rotation, and just the fact that he is raw as a prospect right now. Once he refines that offensive skill set, I think that he could be a really good college player. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. That's going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the show. Thanks for tuning in and making Locked On Louisville your first listen every day. We'll see you back here tomorrow for full Virginia Tech prep. Go Cards.